A few, we have a little speechifying, and then we have some songs and some skits, and yeah, that's, you know, and some greeting or two, and then we'll have time to socialize at the end. So that's kind of what we're doing, and you, of course, are welcome to get up and get a coffee or whatever's over there and a cookie or something while we're going on here. I don't know if I have my head too together, but I'll try. I just wanted to say a little bit maybe about the organization, and Bill Durland is going to speak after me about the founding, and I don't think I'm going to say anything that will step on his toes, but just a little bit. The first meeting that got this started was September 1982, which Bill will talk about. And then I just found in the files a proposal from February 1983. So there were kind of a series of proposals that were defining the organization. But I just wanted to see if from this proposal at that time, any of this sounds familiar about what we're doing today. And actually, I didn't really want to use the mic, but can everybody hear me? I tend to yell pretty loud. So the clearinghouse proposal came to this February '83 meeting and listed 6 purposes for this organization, which was a clearinghouse not to replace existing groups or centralize the war tax resistance movement, but to provide these services. Information sharing, including a newsletter. Do we do that today? Yeah. Okay, you can find the newsletter on the table over here if you haven't seen it, and it is our 30th anniversary issue. Networking, putting people in touch with each other. Any of that going on? Okay, we're still at it. There's something called distribution here. I assume that to mean literature distribution, or distribution of information, which is now moving toward the cloud, right? Are we still doing that? Yeah. We're pretty persistent. The next one is census. How many are we? There was a certain desire at that time to count nationally how many people were doing this. Do we have a clue? No! Do we still want to know? We still want to know, yes. The IRS won't tell us. They used to actually sort of have a category for political or war tax resistors, but they got to a point where they didn't want to say it anymore because they didn't want to encourage people to do it, of course. So they just lump all tax protesters into a sort of vague pile there. And we still keep saying, what do we say these days? 2,000 to 8,000, but it's probably a lot more, and we have no idea. There's so many people who sort of
47% according to Romney.
Yes! Okay, and then the next one. Organize strategy meetings and conferences. Does that sound familiar? And finally, coordinate national publicity. You've seen us on the headlines all around the country, haven't you? We do send out press releases, though, and most of that is around tax day and sometimes around other issues. And one of the extra ones we did this year, some of you know who Cindy Sheehan is, was to help support Cindy Sheehan as the IRS took her to court for her war tax resistance. And they haven't pursued the case in court. She was there in the spring in Sacramento, California is where they took her. But she writes on her blog, Cindy Sheehan's Soapbox. She has some writings up there about war tax resistance. And she is actually one of the best people I've seen writing these days about her resistance and why she's doing it and why she's continuing to do it despite the fact that they keep trying to go after her. So if you haven't looked at her blog, or if you happen to go hear her speak somewhere when she's traveling the country, and a lot of you have seen her, or if you don't know her, she's kind of the peace mom, a woman whose son was killed in Iraq in 2006, 5, 6. And she decided at that point that he had been killed for no good cause, and she could no longer pay her taxes. So she's been doing it all along, but she hadn't been much in touch with our network until recently when the IRS really started going after her. So anyway, if you go hear her speak, I hope you will also go up and thank her for her resistance and talk to her about it if you are so moved, and let her know if you're resisting that, you know, we're all part of it, we're all together.
Julia Butterfly Hill is another one.
Yes, Julia Butterfly Hill, some of you may know her name, and she's in our film Death and Taxes, and if you haven't seen it, it's available for purchase and showing, and you can also watch it on our website. You don't even have to buy it. But Julia's also very articulate. So, yeah, it did say that setting up the office to do all this work would require 2 full-time staff people. That kind of has never really happened.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, briefly, okay, briefly, early on in the beginning. And I have been in this part-time position coordinating Nutrix since 2003. There were other coordinators before me, and we're a small organization, and whoever gets hired to be that staff person takes the office into some space in their home or in a friendly church or wherever it is. So before it was in Brooklyn, New York, it was with Mary Lair up in Ithaca, New York, and before that it was Karen Mary's daughter in Monroe, Maine, and before that Carolyn Stevens and Joel Taunton and
Seattle.
Pedro.
Yeah, we'll get his name in a minute. In Seattle, the office was in Seattle, and the first office was on Long Island in Patchogue, New York, with Kathy Levine as the first coordinator and Larry Bassett co-coordinated for a couple of years. Anyway, I think that that about covers what I was going to say. Oh, except the last thing is, as you can see, with a 25-hour-a-week position or less, or sometimes a little bit more, nothing would really happen without all the people who are volunteers, who are the local contacts and counselors, who write articles for the newsletter, who produce the literature, who do the website or speak publicly, who, what else, serve on our committees. How many in the room have been on the administrative committee over the years, which is like our board? Lots of people have been on administrative committee and helped keep it going. And everybody who comes to our business meeting is part of the coordinating committee. So there's just all kinds of volunteer work that happens from around the country. And it's actually kind of fun, like when we did the video, to have a committee that is nationwide, you know. Coast to coast, we had people who were part of creating that video, who were interviewed for it for all different places, you know, sort of produced outside of our office in Brooklyn, but edited by Carlos Stewart in North Carolina, and a lot of the film was shot by Steve Heiss, who lives in Tucson, Arizona. So we are truly very national and very volunteer, and I think all of us should just give all of ourselves a big round of applause for keeping this organization going. So now we're going to go from the